Dear David Lynch, we love you very much. And by we, I mean specifically Ben and myself. And the rest of the 98% of the population. And there aren't 100 people in the world. There are other people in that 2%. They love you too. They just don't know it yet. This is an episode starting off the arc for David Lynch, which we should do an arc introduction. I just thought of that.
We're going to do one.
We'll do it later. Okay. Sorry, we're on the air. So welcome to the Movie Vault, David Lynch. We love you. We're sorry that you're dead. We wish we could have got another movie, possibly a Marvel movie from you.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Crazy one if he did Moon Knight or something crazy.
And we also wish he could have come on the Movie Vault.
Yes,
we missed out on that.
But he's here in spirit.
Yeah.
Which is a creepy way to say welcome to the Movie Vault, Shaz.
Thank you.
Shaz.
I'm sorry, I'm not David Lynch.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You are more qualified than David Lynch in the legal realm.
Yes, I'll take it. Now,
tell me your opinion of David Lynch.
As a not as robust watcher of David Lynch films, I am a fan because I actually was a big fan of Twin Peaks. So that's probably the thing I assume most people know of him.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe so.
I like the weirdness and darkness, also visual use. So I'm a fan of what he's done that I liked, but then a lot of it just seems too weird for me, so I tend to not go all the way down it because I'm not the biggest surrealist fan.
I see. That is a very fair point because surrealism is very person specific, whether or not you like it. And you can like some surrealism and dislike others. That is my lecture for today. Ben, what's your view of David Lynch?
So I came to David Lynch initially with I was going to say Elephant Man. I've never watched Elephant Man. Eraserhead. Eraserhead. This was very early on in my era of learning to love film.
Yeah.
And it was on Canopy, which I love. I always promote Canopy. You can probably get it through your local library, and they have amazing selection of sort of independent and foreign movies. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to watch some of these more artistic movies, and Eraserhead. I think the cover, and I'd heard Lynch, Lynchian is a term that people use now. It's hard to put your finger on exactly what it means, but usually it means if something's really weird or strange, it's Lynchian.
Yeah.
And so I turned on Eraserhead, and it was the most bizarre experience that I had watched in a movie up to that point. But I really enjoyed it because I didn't understand it, if that makes sense. So I kind of grew to this place in movies where if a movie was something that I couldn't understand, I appreciated it for that. It was pushing me. But I also began to understand surrealism a little bit in that everything is not a puzzle that has to be solved. Although it's interesting to point out that Eraserhead, looking back and having listened to more commentary on it, is actually not that complicated of a film to understand because it is really easy to relate the experiences of Eraserhead to specific moments in Lynch's life.
Yes.
He was in a poor area of Philadelphia for a time in art school, and I think was Eraserhead set in Pittsburgh or something, or it may not have been specific.
I don't remember.
But it was his experience getting married too young, or maybe in his opinion too young. He's been married 3 times and divorced 3 times, or separated at least the last time. I can't remember. And
interesting. So
it was his first relationship, living in this really poor area, and just life was confusing to him, and this is his way of getting it out there. But over time, I think his movies have become more difficult to figure out what personal experience he's relating to the movie.
That makes sense.
And if you go into it thinking it's a puzzle that I can solve, like a movie like Mulholland Drive, it's not. You're not. You can make a video solving it, but it's not truly actually solving it. It's just solving what your own personal experience and how you're relating it to the movie. So that's what I think is cool about David Lynch.
Trying to comfort yourself.
Yes. But Lynch also loves, he's not one of those directors who is trying to trick the audience. He wants you to come up with these explanations. If you were to sit down with him and you were to be I think Wild at Heart is about this, he'd be that's awesome. Or, and is very like...
He does a great David Lynch impression, Shaz.
We'll see whether we can capture it on. I feel like I get very nervous when...
He can't do it on the spot. He has to...
It has to really come from the soul.
We're gonna pull it out of you by the end of this.
Then David Lynch will be on the podcast.
Is that my goal? Is that the
Maybe
puzzle I'm trying to solve?
Yes.
Maybe
Done.
that is the goal.
Now, the thing about David Lynch that I've always thought about is he is content without answers. Or without giving answers, I'd say. Every movie he has is so specific to the thought that he has in his brain, and he doesn't care to share it, which, most people watching a film like that would hate it. And that's fair. I think that's fair. That's part of the surrealism. But I appreciate it because instead of putting a puzzle together, he's taking pieces out as you go. So it's more of like how confusing can we make this while still carrying the themes throughout the film? So it's almost a meta way to make a film where the structure is kind of thrown out the window, but the themes are still there. So David Lynch isn't postmodern when it comes to themes. Here's he really hones in on good character work, good psyche building of characters, and overall, even in Twin Peaks, there's a good storyline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that David Lynch is totally lost postmodern completely. Now he's known as the father of postmodern film. To be honest, I just made that title for him, but you could say
he's also super into transcendental meditation.
Yeah, so he's got a lot going on.
Yeah,
or he had
all these pieces track.
Yes, and but he's really, really good at honing in on specific things. I'd say he's really good at controlling a scene. I think of the scene in Mulholland Drive where it's just this build up. They're at a diner and these two characters are talking, and then they go outside and he talks about this guy that he's seen in a dream. And he goes outside, and then all of a sudden, this guy peeks out. It's this caveman guy, and it's a freaky, freaky, freaky situation.
And it's completely out of...
Doesn't fit in the movie.
Yeah, it's out of context in the whole movie.
The face is still burned in my brain. I remember watching that at night and just, jumping. And
so I haven't seen it.
And that's a beautiful thing. And for most people, it's not.
Yeah.
Now, we're coming to Wild at Heart, 1990, David Lynch. This is the movie we chose for you to watch. I would love to hear your honest, visceral thoughts right out of it, and then maybe how that has changed since reflecting on it. And then I want to give my thoughts, because I think we have similar but also different thoughts. Because I want to know, really David Lynch's films are about what is your visceral reaction to it. So, there isn't much to dig in. There is a lot to dig into we could talk about, but, what does it evoke in you, Shaz?
It evoked a bunch of things. So, I'll tell you the visceral initial feeling. It has unpacked a little and changed, but it's been just a few days. Visceral reaction. What a bunch of terrible people making terrible decisions.
David Lynch films, I'll tell you.
So, yeah, it ended. I was like, well, that was uncomfortable, and I don't know if I just wasted 2 hours of my life. So, yeah, that was my visceral reaction.
That's so fair. That's so fair. Reflecting on it.
Yeah. Reflecting on it. Then I started to think about it more, and, you can tell from even from the over-the-top acting, right?
Yeah.
That there is a degree of they're meant to be these cartoonish, soap opera-ish, over-the-top versions of something a little more subtle underneath. So if you just kind of sit and think about it a little bit more, I think that was the thing for me. Once I pushed away the fact that, wait, that was actually intentional, some of the stuff that bothered me up front, and then thinking about the little drips of backstory that they give, little subtle comments that weren't the big part of the script, but the comments made little comments. Then I went, oh, these are hurting people trying to survive. So there was that. Yeah. That was the undertone of it, and that I started to be able to draw towards. I was like, maybe I'll watch it again. Maybe.
I'm not going to watch this again. I don't think so. There was a little bit much at some times.
Yeah, it's a strong maybe. Probably not.
That's a great point. And I think you hit it on the nail. What is that?
Hit the nail on the head.
Hit the nail on the head. I don't know these phrases.
You got there. Sort of.
Sort of like David Lynch. And for that, the thing you brought up is struggling people trying to survive. Now, I saw these two opposite people, right? You have the Laura Dern character, and then you have the Nicolas Cage character, who are in love. They're trying to start this life together no matter what other people think. But they come from two different types of backstories, right? One of them didn't have any parental guidance, he said. The other one didn't had parental guidance, but way too much. Like just overbearing mom, controlling mom. And you see the negatives of the extremes on both sides, right? One of them is wild at heart. Hey, that's the name of the movie, he says. And the other one is kind of submissive to everyone, almost just like doesn't have thoughts of her own for some, from a lot of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's because one of them had to always make decisions for himself. The other one never made any decisions for herself. So they're both struggling. They're both broken people trying to kind of go on in life. And David Lynch, this is one of my favorite things about David Lynch. He describes his movies based on like a short phrase. And the one for this is like, Ben, do you have it? The voice?
It's like finding love in hell.
Yeah, that's what he says. It's like finding love in hell. It's a love story in hell. And I think that's the most beautiful way to describe this film. It's how can we make the worst love story ever?
A really modern romance in a violent world.
Yeah, is that what he says?
Yeah. I kind of split up the quote, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think that's my initial reaction. Having somewhat of a David Lynch filter, I wouldn't say I fully have that. I see a beautiful love story in the most grotesque way. It's the most broken of people, the most broken of situations. There are serial killers, murder, rapists, honestly. We'll have to put a content warning. And there are, terrible scenes where guys are forcing girls to do things. Willem Dafoe's in there as a nasty guy. And they're watching car accidents, murders. They're running from the law. He's on parole. But
it's like pretty much all the evil things you could possibly put in 2 hours.
Everything in one movie. Yeah.
But he kind of treats her right.
Yeah.
In some scenes, he values her.
He does. No, he does.
So finding love in hell is a great way to put it.
And he learns the ending of the movie, which I don't know that I'm jumping ahead too far, but Lynch. So there was a book that this movie is based on. The book was written like in congruence with them deciding to write the script. So the book was like mostly finished, and then Lynch was presented the book, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm interested in making a movie about this." And then I think the book was finished, and then the script was written, and it was like all kind of in one. It's weird when they do that, but this happens like kind of often where like a book isn't even finished, and they'll be like, "Oh, we're already gonna make a movie about it." So
that's weird. It's
an odd way for it to come about, but his ending is much happier than the book's ending.
Really? That's rare.
Because the ending has Sailor almost leaving. Because if you notice throughout the movie, Sailor's like in love with Lula, but also Lula is the one who's making more of the comments about making this a more long-term thing, and he's more like, well, let's just enjoy the moment that we have and not assume that anything is going to happen after this, because he's used to his life being full of, I'm going to prison, I'm doing this and that, and he thinks that like her life will be better without him and his son, but really he's running away from responsibility because he's like, oh, the kid doesn't even know me. But we all know, like, just because the father never met the son doesn't mean the son would be impacted if he never met his father. Yeah. So he's telling himself a lie. And then he meets Cheryl Lee, who's the fairy or whatever, the wizard,
Laura Palmer.
The movie is also full of Wizard of Oz references, which I am not the most familiar with Wizard of Oz, but I know that there are references sprinkled throughout the movie.
Lots of them, actually.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yellow Brick Road. There are lots of like obvious references to. So I don't know if this is supposed to be some sort of twisted version of the Wizard of Oz, possibly, but he certainly draws on that in his smoothie of transcendental meditations that we see throughout this.
Yeah, I like that. It's a smoothie of it, just blends it all together.
That's 100% David Lynch's style. So my next question would be, what do you think of specifically Loli? What's her name?
Lula.
Loli.
Her name is Lula Pace Fortune.
Sure, I'll just say L. Lula. What do you think of her storyline? Kind of the coming from that mother, and then the whole mother storyline. And by the way, that's her real mom. That's Laura Dern's real mom.
Oh, get out.
Yeah, Diane Ladd. Really incredible performance. I think Diane Ladd's performance
was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah. Was really amazing. I mean, really, Nic Cage, Laura Dern, and Diane Ladd all had and Willem Dafoe all had like
Willem
incredible
Dafoe
performances.
Great.
Yeah.
But what do you think about that side of the storyline? And we'll focus on that side for now.
on Lula's
storyline.
Lula's storyline. Yeah, I mean, it's tragic, right?
Yeah.
She just had so much from from her childhood that sort of, and I kept trying to have to remind myself of that, of, because it was annoying me that
Yes.
she's such a kind of, for lack of a better term, like simp.
Yes. She is. Yep.
Right? And I think it was a choice because it was so frequent. I don't know if you guys noticed, but so much of the movie she just kind of has her right hand on top of her head in this very like sort of helpless, carefree way, but it was very childlike and silly, and I think it was a choice to kind of keep pushing that part of her character because for me it just looked like silliness.
Yeah.
But I think she just got stuck at a young age after, encountering abuse, encountering, very controlling parents, encountering some potential murder and crazy stuff happening in her household. I mean, she just, and being told to stay quiet, right? Stay quiet, be obedient. And I had to remind myself of that when she was just getting on my nerves. So I think that was the big part. I appreciated that it took losing everyone, being alone, and then having to raise this kid when that's when you see her find her feet, right?
Yeah.
And I liked that they gave her, removed from anyone else, they gave her that sort of, even though that's not the end of the movie, for me, that was her kind of pinnacle when I saw her not be such a simp. She was more put together. She was a mom at this point and just kind of on her own 2 feet. And I liked that.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. I didn't notice that with the arm over the head, but now I picture her doing that and it makes sense. I think that side of it with the whole murder storyline is pretty crazy in general, I would say. And then the fact that, Sailor was involved in, her father's murder and stuff like that. And that she kind of discovers that later on. And, I think it's not so much focused. David Lynch isn't so focused on what happened in the murder. We're not focused on details, clues. It's not like a murder mystery. He's kind of focused on the trauma that came from it, and he kind of focuses on like Laura Dern. I'm just gonna call her Laura Dern because she's an actress that David Lynch uses a lot.
Yeah.
So Laura Dern's character just is recovering from that, and David Lynch is really good at trauma. David Lynch experienced trauma, a lot of it, and he had, he didn't have the worst life that you could think of in reading an article, but he had, a pretty tough life, and he always implements the heart of the trauma in almost all of his films. And Twin Peaks is a great example of that. Like you have, honestly, Laura Palmer, who is like tragically abused in the show, and just like reading her notes, almost like a 13 Reasons Why type of thing, where she's already dead. We're learning about all these terrible things that happened to her. And it's like a little girl's trauma. How can a 70-year-old man understand what a little girl's trauma is like? Well, he probably had family that kind of was involved in that kind of thing. And then he also he's very close with a lot of these women who are in his films. Like Laura Dern loves David Lynch.
He was married to Isabella Rossellini, who was in Blue Velvet and is in this movie. And the thing I think people misunderstand about Lynch, and maybe they don't so much now, but then they did. So Roger Ebert, he's the classic movie critic. He hated David Lynch, and he hated Blue Velvet, and he hated Wild at Heart. He gave Wild at Heart like 2.5 out of 4, which is like, honestly, I thought it could be worse. Based on the review, I thought he would have given it like a 1.
1, yeah.
But he felt that Lynch was like it was so visceral, the violence, because this is a 4-film run that all of these movies, Blue Velvet, Wild at Heart, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, and Lost Highway, they all feature violence towards women as a key part. And if you are thinking about it more in like the Quentin Tarantino exploitation movie lane of things, I could see why you would react strongly like, this isn't something that we should be encouraging
for sure.
happening in movies. Like, because if you misinterpret them, there could be a lot of danger in like people, are we like kind of glamorizing this violence?
Yeah.
Is this like a bad thing? But the movies do, if you like pay attention, focus more on like what Zach is saying, how these characters react to these things, how do they grow and move on? Because we understand that, like, in spite of a lot of these movies being set, well, maybe not a lot of them, but for sure Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet being set in, like, suburban, sort of quintessential American towns, it shows that, like, there's a lot of bad things that happen that are right under our nose that we don't see.
Yeah.
And people have to deal with these things, and a lot of times we don't acknowledge that they're having to deal with them.
Yeah.
We like to think that it's not happening and that there's no, and maybe it doesn't happen in like the movie way like Lynch presents it, but it definitely, some of these things are just like things that sadly go on in our fallen world. And if you never engage with them at all, they're just going to keep happening, because like turning your head the other way is essentially just as bad as, you know, participating in a lot of points.
Sure.
You know, especially once you like have the sense that something's going on. Like with Laura Palmer, lots of people had the opportunity to be like, something is going on that's wrong here, and nobody stepped in and did anything, and then they had to figure out and learn those things after, you know, it had already happened, and it was a tragedy. So
one of the things I like in what Zach just said about Lynch doesn't care so much about the details so much as the effect of the trauma. And I think that is the important piece, you know, in this movie and in other ones that he's done. You know, pardon the phrase, but there's this phrase out there called like trauma porn, right? And they just really tell the story and they show the story, and there's this idea that, you know, it forces people to face it and, you know, really deal with it. But that becomes its own problem in its own right?
Yeah.
You need to see the harder story. You need to see the more terrible thing. And then I think it's one of the reasons people are so obsessed with half these murder shows, right? But the thing that really matters is the effect this has on people, right? And what does it really do to them, and how does it affect them, not just even in the moment, but for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And so I like that in this movie, and in, you know, when it's done in other ways where, yes, the thing that happened is terrible, but one of the worst things that happens when you traumatize someone, when you abuse someone, when these things happen, it's the ripple effect that now has. And I love that depiction.
Yeah. Because it's not just investigation, discovery. Oh, someone was murdered. Family's sad. No, David Lynch is actually describing what happens after that, and kind of dealing with that. Almost like on a yellow brick road to go find, what's it, the Wizard?
The Wizard,
I'm stupid.
We're off to see the Wizard.
The Wizard, yeah. You know, for answers, as Nicolas Cage wishes for, Sailor.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think the one thing that I could question about David Lynch's method is, does everybody that watches this movie get that out of it?
no, I'm gonna say no.
Yeah.
No.
So that is the hard part about, because a lot of people will just be turned away, and maybe that goes to
My
show
boyfriend
that
didn't.
like not not every movie is for everyone, and not every piece of art is for everyone. I think about I was just making a video about books, and I had just read Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian last fall, and that is a book that I would say that I wouldn't just recommend to everyone, being like, this is a classic book, you have to read it, because it's very violent and you have to be willing to deal with the themes. And again, speaking to the torture porn thing, you do have to like self-reflect on your motives sometimes, to be like, am I reading this because, you know, for good intentions or bad intentions? And everyone has to figure that out for themselves. What is your limit? You know, what are you comfortable with? Do you think it's healthy for your mind to think about these things in this way? And I think we've said, relating to other movies before, but like, we definitely don't have all the answers for that. And we have not set ourselves up to be a like content like, we're not trying to review necessarily the content to say like you should watch this movie or not watch this movie, but just think about the themes and how it impacted culture more so. Now at Cannes, this movie also had people had visceral reactions to it. There was a lot of cheering and a lot of booing, so it was very divisive.
Fascinating.
And it won the grand prize, the Palme d'Or.
Oh, wow.
Which is interesting, because of all the Lynch movies, this was the only one that won the Palme d'Or. He never won an Oscar. I don't even know that any of his films were nominated like for Best Picture. He was nominated as director maybe twice, and he never won. But he did win a Palme d'Or, which a lot of people would consider to be cooler and better than an Oscar because it's European.
It is.
You know?
It definitely is.
Well, especially for his genre.
But you can see...
for sure.
You can see how this movie would
Oscar.
translate better to a European audience because we think of the Europeans being more, you know, like laissez-faire, if I'm even using that phrase, right? Like, you know, anything goes type
hands
thing.
off. Laissez-faire, it's a legal term for hands off.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So it's just kind of like, this is a very over-the-top, violent movie, lots of sexual elements.
Mm-hmm.
Europeans, they love that stuff.
Yeah,
Wow.
especially the French.
Way to generalize.
All of Europe in general.
All of Europe.
Which we all know they're all the same over there.
It's so funny because we can say that about Europe, but any other continent, like,
Yeah.
we can't say they're all the same.
So yeah, sure. Sweeping generalizations aside, it's no surprise that like funding for Mulholland Drive, I think, came from like a French company. Like he then got funding from European, you know, and it translated back to success in the U.S. eventually. But now I'm kind of losing my train of thought. But I just thought it was interesting that we're talking about this and like audiences themselves also had like the same opinion at the time it came out. And this was with less understanding of who Lynch was because he was just the Blue Velvet and now this, you know, huge sensation Twin Peaks.
I mean, one season, I think.
One
at that
season,
point, right?
which that was really the 8-episode first season was the sensation thing. Really after the second season, halfway through, then Lynch was kind of like a flash in the pan for until Mulholland Drive.
Yeah.
Because his career started to actually go down in terms of public favor because Fire Walk with Me was a disaster, got booed off the stage at Cannes. Lost Highway, people didn't like. It was more of this, like it was more surreal and still all the violence and everything.
Yeah.
So people were just like, okay, this guy's just
Too far.
too much, too far.
Yeah.
We're done. And then he made Mulholland Drive, and now revisionist history, everyone's like, oh yeah, Lynch, his career was amazing. You know.
Did Roger Ebert ever go back?
I don't think he ever went back on his opinion on Blue Velvet or Wild at Heart, but he did give Mulholland Drive a 4 out of 4, and he loved Mulholland Drive.
Okay.
So he basically said Mulholland Drive is. He never said Lynch was a bad director. He just didn't like. He didn't like the violence.
Yeah.
He wasn't willing to go there with Lynch, and it seemed like he didn't trust Lynch and his relationship with. He thought the experiences these actresses must have felt on the set would have been so traumatic because of how they turned out, like in Blue Velvet, that like you would have been just scarred for life to be like on the set. But when you like hear interviews with the actresses and actors of the movies, they all sound like he's a very good person to work with, and he makes everyone feel safe.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. I've never been an actor, but I assume that if you're doing something that's like really vulnerable and difficult, and you know is especially like supposed to emulate some sort of traumatic experience, like you wouldn't want some yelling, screaming director who's like a perfectionist. You need somebody who's like kind of a calming presence. And from Lynch, it doesn't seem like people have a lot of issues with him. He'll like yell and stuff on set, but it's more of in like a joking way. He's not. People know he's not like being serious. He's not yelling at people so much, like some directors.
He's no Terrence Malick.
No, he's no Terrence Malick. And that one guy who for some reason has made a bunch of movies and everyone hates working with, I forget. I'll remember his name later.
I think nowadays that it's probably called trauma-informed directing, right?
Yeah.
So that's probably what he was doing before there was a label for it, and probably from his own background, which gave him understanding, empathy. It probably made him a good director to handle these harder scenes and harder topics. And I mean, it does matter as someone, I mean, I haven't done movies and films and that kind of stuff, but even something as silly as improv, it requires a lot of trust, right? If you're up there with teammates, and I do that, when you're up there with teammates, you're kind of trust falling into each other, hoping you're doing something weird and the rest of my team's going to catch me in it and we're going to just run with it and make something fun and silly. And, you know, before you perform or even before practice, you'll always do safety checks.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, where am I at? Is there a topic I'd rather not talk about or whatever? But all of that to evoke, we're all going to go out there and we're going to kind of trust fall and do some uncomfortable things, and it might get weird, but we've level set up front. We've got each other's backs. Like, we'll even say that, like, got your back.
Yeah.
So I just feel like knowing he created that space, especially for a woman who sometimes watches, and I don't watch often because I have my own stuff, so I don't like to watch, and I just try to be, wise about what I consume.
Oh, for sure.
But it's nice to know that in the filming of these, people aren't being traumatized. They felt safe in doing it.
And that's during a time, 90s, early 2000s, when a lot of crap was happening with the directors, and then it all came out later on, in the last 10 years.
And like I said, he still did get together with Isabella Rossellini, so it was I guess I don't know.
Did she ever come back for a movie after?
They divorced, but it was on good terms. It sounded like he was just not a great person to be married to. I
can't imagine.
He was married to his work, so it's he would say. I think other podcasters that I listen to would mention that it was kind of Lynch would be why do these women keep marrying me? They know that I've got all this stuff going on, and they still come, and it's he's being attacked. But I always forget though, because I'm used to seeing him in his later stage, but he was a pretty attractive guy. I think he had kind of this charisma about him, and seemed to.
Till the end, you had that
people.
White fiery hair.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
So
some women like the crazy.
Yeah.
So it seemed like there was a draw there to him, but it was never in a bad way from that we've ever heard, which is rare in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But he was always, he loved Hollywood and he moved there, but he was always kind of an eccentric. In Mulholland Drive is a lot about the dark side of Hollywood too. So he was also willing to wrestle with the dark side of things that were personal to him that he was working in, but I would say he was an outsider.
Yeah,
definitely. He was such a force. He had such strong visions that it was there was always going to be people that would work with him, but he had to work his magic to convince them that it was going to be before he had built his name, I guess. Definitely. To the point where. And eventually he chose, with Inland Empire, to do, it on his own. He kind of eschewed Hollywood and just was well, now I'm big enough, I can do things myself. I think the internet helped him a lot in the later part of his career. Which was sadly kind of, it was basically the later part of his career was just Inland Empire and Twin Peaks The Return, which were both very amazing, in my opinion. So I'm happy with it. But he did a lot of, art and painting, and he's a very versatile guy.
He couldn't be contained. All of his visions had to be put out into the world. He kind of, he was a force of nature, but not forceful, if that makes sense. So kind of what you brought up, Shaz. Everybody that talks about Lynch loves Lynch, even exes. That's the thing. So it's I think he would work with people well, even though his vision is very distinct and strictly Lynchian, and he defined that term, of course. But so we described kind of what was happening on the Lula side. Lula?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shaz, what was your impression of the sailor side of things, besides thinking of Sailor Moon every time his name was being used?
All I could think of. Yeah. I mean, I think he was. Once I could get over the I wish I was Elvis Presley persona, that's always an annoying character trait to me. As someone who likes Elvis, but dudes that just want to be Elvis has always been a weird thing to me.
Is that a thing?
Oh, yeah. Especially in the 90s.
Describe it real quick. I don't even know what that means.
They'll do the hair. They usually wear some kind of leather jacket, brooding T-shirt, and then of course they'll sing his songs or his songs a lot. I think
Blue Moon.
Another early '90s example of that was Jason Priestley.
Oh sure.
So it's just these Elvis wannabes.
Okay.
Anyway.
Is Marlon Brando a Elvis wannabe?
No, I think Marlon Brando Brando was his own person.
He was his own brand?
Yeah, he had his own brand of, I see what you did there. Well done.
Who was the guy in Happy Days that... No.
Arthur Fonzarelli, the Fonz.
Was he a Elvis? Or is that just its own thing?
No, I think he was just... I think he was... Yeah, I mean, the show was after Elvis, so, filming of it, I think it was set...
Yeah.
Before, but yeah. I mean, I think he was probably inspired by Elvis, but he was kind of that greaser thing. I don't know...
Now we're pulling too much. I'm trying to reach too far in the pop culture jar, and
we're going off the rails. Rein us back in. Okay, so Nicolas Cage, Sailor, not Moon. His character. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the first 1 minute of the movie is incredibly violent and jarring, where, you know, I go, is he a ninja? What's happening right now? Just insane level of self-protection. I was like, okay, he has an interesting ability of super, super chill and then insane violence. Got it. But otherwise, I just feel like he was a sad guy with a background who kept making bad choices but didn't want to make the bad choices, but was stuck in this place of that was kind of his identity. And, you know, people held that against him. So, you know, Lula's mom, he was trying to move forward from bad choices he had made in his past, but she brought it back, right? And then arguably in his mind made him go back to being a bad guy.
Yeah.
But then you see again, you know, when he agrees to do the robbery and when he's busted and he's down on the ground and he's like, I'm sorry, Lula. I forget what he says. I think he's like, I failed you or something like that. And it's like, yeah, you made a bad choice, right? She even said, don't do it. So it's a combination of people holding his past against him, but he also keeps having a hand in it. And yeah, I think he was trying. There was a sweeter nature to him that I appreciated. I remember one of the surprising things about him was when Lula tells him she's pregnant, and like a reflex, he was like, "Yep, it's all right by me." I don't know why that just seemed surprising to me. I was like, "Okay then."
He takes anything that comes his way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Just because of the backstory, you know, he's like you said, he's in and out of prison. You know, he'd never, you know, he doesn't really have much control of what goes on in his life, even though he makes bad decisions. But he doesn't connect those dots. You know, that's just the way he lives. My favorite quote of the whole movie, I think you guys know which one. This is a snakeskin jacket, and for me, it's a symbol of my individuality and my belief in personal freedom.
Personally, I love Nicolas Cage, especially in this movie. I love when directors pull people in that are like perfect for the part, because if you could like draw up a character for Nicolas Cage, it's like, just go be over the top, you know, just go all into the Nicolas Cage thing. And I think I was listening to a podcast about this, and I didn't get very far, as the Blank Check podcast, and they were just mentioning like a lot of times Nicolas Cage gets a lot of flack because of the internet now. There's all these compilations that are just like Nicolas Cage being crazy. And for financial reasons, he's been in lots. He's definitely a working actor, and I don't know if that's because of poor financial responsibility in his own life or, you know, exactly what. But he has lots of opportunities to like clip him out of context. But the one thing that you could never accuse him of is having like a lack of heart or effort in his projects. He really is trying to do the best that he can. And all of the work at least I've seen him do. And I think at one point in his career he was doing like all low budget movies for a paycheck and maybe got pulled a little too thin. But nonetheless, he's seen as like a meme now. But he really, like, if you pick out his best movies, which I would assume that this is among them. I've heard like Leaving Las Vegas is a good movie of his. And, you know, he had some other movies in the 90s that were big. He
Obviously,
really
National Treasure.
National Treasure.
That we love to review.
And he really is a talented actor, especially when you can utilize his skill, which is like basically this, you know, just be funny, be crazy, have this weird accent, and just like play into it. And this film got accused of like the purposeful overacting and like parody.
Sure.
But that just goes into the surrealism.
It's on purpose.
In my opinion. It's on purpose.
Everything's better if it's on purpose.
It's interesting that they can coexist with like very real, like we're saying, you know, coping with trauma and these things, because that is how, like, part of how people cope with trauma is sometimes through comedy and, you know,
weird dancing
and other things. And like, there's something to that could be healthy in doses. Not that it is necessarily for these characters in this film all the time. But I don't think every film about trauma has to be this like really sad, self-serious thing either.
Brief
really
cough.
Trying to get it out of there. I'm trying to get over this cough. I had a hard time with it.
So Nick, I think, is on the rise because he was at 100 million net worth. Then he went all the way down to 25, and that's when people said he's in trouble. He's a working actor, even though 25 million is still a lot of money.
He still had 25 million.
Yeah.
I already
We should
had
have
like
started a GoFundMe for him.
Yeah, exactly.
he potentially had gambling problems.
Sure.
I think
Whatever
at points in
happened.
his life.
And now he's back to 40 mil, so he's on the rise up. But I'll also say he's got this movie. He had that Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent in 2022.
He was in Long Legs, which was
And he's about to have his own superhero show. Did you know this, Ben?
I didn't know this.
So he plays Spider-Man Noir in Into the Spider-Verse. He is getting his own live-action TV show of Spider-Man Noir that has already been filmed. He's already done filming it. I think it comes out this year or next year. So he's going to be a superhero. He's going to obviously be in the last Spider-Verse film. Is it Across or Beyond the Spider-Verse? And I think he's going to get back to that 100 mil here soon.
Just comeback kid over here.
I know. And I think Nic Cage will be like a legendary actor down the line. Only because, one, you have the top, bottom, top again. And then also, his meme legacy will live way beyond his death. Almost in a Lynchian way.
I mean, his range is crazy if you think of all the different movies he's been in.
Yeah.
And types of movies. Now, there's just sort of something that's just Nic Cage in all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter, what I wouldn't put him in that character actor place at all.
Yeah.
He's just, there's a little bit of him just in all the characters, like a Vince Vaughn.
Exactly.
He wants to be a character actor,
Sure.
but he's not.
He's not.
Yeah.
Because I was reading about him.
Cannot transcend Nicolas Cage.
But
Yeah.
he did say he wants to be like James. He wanted to be like James Dean, which maybe to some extent because James Dean was a guy who people think of as him in his movies. So maybe to some extent he has achieved that. Obviously, there was no tragic accident yet for not trying to wish anything into existence for Nic Cage, but he's already had a much longer career. Interestingly, you may both know this, but his uncle is Francis Ford Coppola, and his legal name is Nicholas Coppola. But I guess his
Nepo baby.
his dad was like the black sheep of the family, so it's okay. He had to earn favor back. And I think eventually he did work with his uncle on at least one movie or maybe a couple. But it couldn't have hurt that his uncle was Francis Ford Coppola. But I don't know if it helped as much as people think either. He still had to do some amount of work to get to where he is.
How old do you both think Nicolas Cage is?
60?
Yeah, I'm going to go with like 62.
Okay, you both tied. It's 61.
Oh!
Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking I was thinking 49, 50.
Well, actors they usually
Sure. That's where the 75 mil went on plastic surgery.
Yeah, and now it's more subtle these days, I would imagine. So it's harder to tell if people, have gotten.
Yeah, the plastic
Botox
surgeons have done great. We've invested billions of dollars of research into plastic
I'm glad
surgery.
that's where the money is going.
Yeah.
I think
For sure.
that should be where it goes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
Money well spent.
But Laura Dern, on the other hand, has had an interesting career. She stayed with not Nicolas Cage, David Lynch. Obviously, her most notable on the movie vault being Inland Empire.
Definitely not the most notable to everyone, but to the movie vault, her performance in Inland Empire is like a tour de force.
Yes.
Just like incredible.
Is that a legal term too? Tour de force?
It is not, but
Okay.
we can make it one.
Sure. So she is in Blue Velvet, Wild at Heart, Inland Empire. She's in The Return for Twin Peaks.
Yep, she's in The Return.
I believe that's it.
But that is a lot of David Lynch in the grand scheme of things. Did
It's like
not
a
have
third
that
of
many movies.
his projects.
So that's like a decent amount of what he did. I'm surprised she wasn't in Mulholland Drive, but obviously at this point in her career she's on the come up, and then Jurassic Park happens, and I assume that's like her like really most well known movie that she was in.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah, most Hollywood movie.
Yeah. I don't really know other things that she's in, to be honest. I'm looking right now, and I don't recognize. I mean, she's in Little Women, Marriage Story.
I think she now is probably more of a character actor. Like she can fill like a good, side role in a movie.
She was in Star Wars:
People
The
know
Last
who she
Jedi
is.
as the general lady.
Oh yeah,
I forgot about that. Which I forgot about with the
But
purple
I think
hair.
she also, on purpose, this is the type of actress she's wanted to be. She wants to do more interesting, experimental type roles.
Yeah.
I think I've read that before. That I think she also comes from a family. Well, yes, she comes from a family in the industry. Her mom's in this movie, so she had the luxury also of being able to be more selective from the get on what she did. And yeah, it's just she's leaned into wanting to do these types of movies.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to ever go with David Lynch, ever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Bruce Dern was her dad too. So
Was who?
Bruce Dern. He was also in the industry. His name sounds really familiar.
Interesting.
Was he a director?
I don't know. These are questions.
No, he was an actor, I think. Anyway, this is another interesting point about Lynch is that he loved Nepo babies. He loved people who were like child stars who were like failing, and then he would like grab them out and like put them in something. I'm surprised he never did anything with Macaulay Culkin. I feel like he could have, pulled something interesting out of him.
Remind me Macaulay Culkin's nepotism.
Oh, just that it wasn't nepotism. It was more of the child star thing. He also loved that. He loved like people who have weird connections in Hollywood, and he could like
he probably got like fixated on that,
So, which I'm not sure. It's not for the reason that people would normally think. I think normally you do the Nepo baby thing for like financial reasons. Because you're like, we can really market that this person is, we can take their name immediately.
Yeah.
We don't have to like recreate them as a new movie
that's
star.
what I think about Dakota Johnson. She's not a good actress. But I think they're like, well, she's pretty enough, but her name, people love her parents. I genuinely think that's her career.
I don't mean to hate on him, but
right.
like John David Washington in Tenet, it was like he's perfectly fine, but like Denzel Washington being his dad definitely helped him get that part.
Sure.
And you're like, there could have been another guy.
This is life. It's Bronny James.
Yep.
It's the same thing.
And people love a good storyline. We're suckers for it. We love
the Luke Skywalker, Anakin stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's fair, and I think there is. Listen, I know people get mad at Nepo stuff like that, but it's annoying because there are hard workers out there. But if you accept that it's not fair, then you can enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
Be like, I know that guy because he looks like one of my favorite actors.
And my personal opinion is that if you are a Nepo baby, the best thing to do is to just kind of ignore, because anytime you address it, it just sounds like whiny and it's gonna make it worse.
Yes,
right?
Jaden Smith or like Gwyneth Paltrow, all these people. Every time they try to address it, you just roll your eyes and go,
work
"Wow, you don't
and
get
do
it."
your best and don't address it, because if you do, it'll be like, oh, my life is still hard, and like it just. I know your life is probably still hard in a lot of ways, because everyone's life is hard in certain ways. So that's fair, and even if you acknowledge that you did have a benefit, it still doesn't help. So just do your work and ignore it and try to dance around the questions. I think that's the best way to deal with it.
Yeah, interesting.
Let David Lynch do something weird with your name and your family relationship and all of that.
Laura Dern is in Taylor Swift's Bejeweled music video.
Oh, okay.
I just thought I'd say that. I'm looking at all of her roles.
There you go.
Yeah.
Her mom, I will say, was one of the most interesting characters in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely over the top, hilarious.
Oh, for
just
sure.
what, her, obviously the lipstick scene is
That's when the movie we were like, this is
bonkers.
insane.
Yeah. I was like, what is happening right now? And she just descends into pure madness.
Definitely.
In her own bedroom of, oh no, I've done a bad thing. I will go crazy. And then everything's fine.
That's just life.
It's okay. I made a mistake and we're just going to move on. And if somebody dies because of my mistake, I can't fix it. I did it. I really, at first I thought her character was annoying, and then I had to remember, no, she's acting over the top on purpose. This is the character. This is the movie. And then I just enjoyed her ridiculousness of it. And I don't know if you guys noticed her changing hair.
Maybe now that you mention it.
So she would, like when she was at home in her nightgown and on the phone, you would see her in this like soft, safe space, if you will. She had very long, straight, almost childlike hair.
I remember this now, yeah.
And then whenever she was done up and with any of the men that she was kind of having them do what she needed them to do, she had the more like television ready, shorter, curly hair. And it was so fascinating seeing that. And then I think by the second or third time I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is an interesting way of Lynch using a visual to show us these like sides of her.
Yeah. David Lynch is so good like that.
These little subtle things.
I know.
Yeah.
She also seemed like a really conflicted character. So she was definitely a very evil person. I don't think that's a surprising thing to say. She was also in with a lot of people that she was in over her head a little bit with these people. David Lynch always has these characters like Mr. Reindeer, who are just these like weird old guys, and they're probably supposed to be, again, an icon of representing probably producers, to be honest. I think he was pretty, like, a lot of these characters in his movies are like these like evil guys who are obviously like taking advantage of young women. They're using everything in their position of power to be just like scumbags, and it's like super obvious that that's what they're doing. But she tries to use these guys for her purposes. So like she knows they're bad, but she also has things that she wants to accomplish.
Good for her.
And the one who's like kind of, maybe he's like definitely a bad guy, but he is still like a human to some extent, is Johnny Farrago, Harry Dean Stanton's character. Sure. He has, because he actually seems like he like in some twisted way, like they have a loving relationship. Maybe it's one-sided, like he loves her more than her, but
which one was he? Was he the initial investigator?
He was like the older guy. That
he was the first one.
Okay, yep.
And I don't know what his
schmuck.
Yeah, he was kind of a
hire two private investigators or killers, I guess. Hitman.
But then this other guy that she brings in, Santos. Oh, he's a bad guy.
It's just hilarious to me. Like, there's no need to have two hitmen. You could have had that whole storyline with one, but the fact that like there's two hitmen kind of jealous of the other one, like for work, it's like David Lynch just adds random elements like that.
And some of these storylines just like drop off in this movie too. If you notice, like the further they get away, like the whole Mr. Reindeer thing, it's like in the movie at the start, and then it's just like,
well, that's the thing. It's all
did he die in the car accident? Is that I can't remember.
No, I think he's still there.
Yeah,
he's just there. In the background. He was no longer a part of the story.
Why? Because it doesn't have to do with how the characters are feeling anymore.
Right.
Because at first, when she found out that he was involved in her father's murder night, she was afraid that he was involved with those dangerous people. After that, it served its purpose. The plot of the
she
plot,
being Lula.
And you just get to be curious about these like really weird, like evil. And there's this like whole, you could like make a whole TV show about this like ring of people.
That's not what David's about.
But it's not about that. It's about, but he still cares enough about like forming these worlds that, he's like cares just enough about world building to like get you intrigued, but he only cares about it to an extent.
But I'm saying he only cares about it to serve its purpose for the two central characters, because she gets freaked out when she finds out he's in this world, and it honestly adds to her suspicion of him in general, to the point where at the end of the film she's suspicious that he'll even leave when he comes out of jail. And she's disappointed with him 5 years earlier when he commits those crimes, and she's waiting in the courtroom, and the mom comes up and is like, can you leave him, for the 5th time in the movie at least. And so like this suspicion is growing and growing, but that's like a big moment where she realizes like what was I forget what her line was, but it was something similar to like, are you okay, like what are you thinking? And then she says it's just hard when things aren't what they seem, or something like that. That's a line that she said. It's hard to accept things when they're not exactly what you thought they were, is kind of the line. And for her, it's kind of showing like, the superficial world that she has been living in, set up by other people with rules that she hasn't been able to make, isn't exactly what it seems. And it's kind of like, it's almost like a growth moment for her. And to think that David Lynch set up that whole storyline with Mr. Reindeer just to serve that purpose, because there's no other purpose for it.
No, there really isn't.
So, but David he's very intentional about every single scene. So it's like, that must have been the only purpose that he put it in there for. I said being like a British person. But it's amazing. Like, he'll do stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think, that points to her bigger storyline of always wanting to escape the hard realities of life, right? Which makes sense with her whole background, as, she slowly shares it and all of it unfolds. But, she's always trying to get away. And I think California is the representation of Oz, right? It's where they're trying to go.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
And it's where they're trying to go. She just thinks it's going to be this kind of great place they're going to escape to. But yeah, like...
What's the place called? Big Tuna or something like that?
Oh yeah, Big Tuna.
It's like the worst place on earth.
That's Jim's nickname from The Office. Big Tuna.
Oh, Big Tuna. That's right. I forgot about that. But yeah, so they're on their way, but then there's all these places where she either verbally talks about wanting to get out of there, and like, this world is so hard. At one point she's in the bed in the hotel crying, like, that everything is so bad here after that awful interaction with William Dafoe's
Bobby Peru.
Oh,
Yeah,
It's disgusting character.
I could not. Oh, so.
I
gross.
imagine that scene might be like a reason that people would be like, "This movie's horrible," because it's like so. Oh, it's like
There were so
so
many
terrible.
scenes.
And
Yeah, there were so many.
Before you move on real quick,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one scene with the disgusting teeth, as you said, where he shoots the guy when they're robbing him.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he has the pantyhose on his face.
Yep.
And he just smiles because he knows he's about to betray Nicolas Cage, or sorry, Sailor. And he's just smiling with this creepy, disgusting grin, and like foam is coming out of his mouth. It's just like, does this man have rabies? And it was
You're like
the
in a movie
perfect
full
Willem
of like
Dafoe.
evil guys. You're like, how do they manage to one up? Like, how did
Oh my
Bobby
gosh.
Peru one up everyone?
Oh my
and,
gosh.
And here's my question now. This is kind of an aside. Is Willem Dafoe the greatest actor of all time?
That's a great question.
I actually think there's an argument to be made that Willem Dafoe is the best actor.
He gets his hands
What?
so dirty in every project
maybe
he does.
Yeah,
maybe
that's
not-
true.
maybe it's just that he works for me a lot of times in the movies that he picks, and he's so memorable because he'll take a movie that's like completely like has no right to
Yeah.
even be considered a good movie, like The Boondock Saints, for
Yeah.
example. Just like really should be like, it is a B tier movie. It should be like forgotten about, but his performance is just like so memorable and so perfect that you'll be like, maybe that was a good movie, even when it wasn't a good movie. But it makes you think that it is, which is incredible that
Yeah.
an actor has that talent to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I might have to chew on that. I was like, that's a.
I know it's
bold
a real
statement.
It's a really bold
Yeah.
But
statement.
I
It's something
also
I've been-
can't immediately argue with it because he is really talented.
Well, I think about Platoon, and then I'm like The Lighthouse, and he has lots of range.
Yeah.
I've seen him
Spider-Man
work
No
with,
Way Home.
with Yorgos Lanthimos.
Spider-Man 1.
It's sad that Spider-Man is the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah. But he's one of the best villains in Marvel.
But he can go be in any random independent movie and it works, and he can still go be in like a very mainstream Hollywood movie like Spider-Man and be the most memorable character in that. So maybe I shouldn't say of all time because there's so many eras of actors and things, but his career is pretty established at this point, so you can pretty much judge it. Like he could still have a crazy performance. I think he's in his 70s. He's still looking pretty healthy, but he's definitely a lot older. And I'm sure he has some duds because he's been in so many movies.
Yeah.
But a character actor in the modern era, I think he's
I feel like you're gonna have to do a William Dafoe arc, and
That would be great.
That
See what your
would be
thesis
amazing.
is.
He's really good at villains.
yes,
He's really good at being menacing, at being disgusting, at being... I will say, if you watch The Florida Project, he's a pretty good character in that. He plays a good supporting role. And I think you'd enjoy Florida Project, Shaz.
I'll add it to the list.
It's an A24 film, but...
Ugh.
it's early A24.
Okay, I was
Early,
like,
it's,
There was a really good YouTube video. It wasn't very long. It was like 8 or 9 minutes about Willem Dafoe, and it pointed out like he's just good at using his. He has a very unique face, right?
Yes.
And he has a very facial, like you said, with the smile.
Yeah.
But then he'll like incorporate like the teeth, like he'll switch things up. But also just his face in general, like
Yeah.
his normal face, is very distinct and memorable, and he makes sure that he uses it. Like
eyes for me.
So it's like all of the
and
acting.
he's not
is-
worried about being pretty, right? He's not
Yeah.
worried about being a handsome heartthrob. He's being an actor and bringing it all out, even like the foaming at the mouth grossness, right? He is in the scene. He's
Yeah.
not worried about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an image I can't get out of my head, and that's what makes him memorable. You're right. But also, him trying his best to not be pretty makes him pretty. That's my view. Anyway.
Yeah. no, I agree.
comments on
I agree that he's a very
Okay.
he's an in shape, guy, but in this movie he's like purposely like makes himself like gross.
Yeah. Well,
And
and like the teeth implant thing or whatever they are,
Yeah.
flippers usually.
that was crazy.
Yeah.
Flippers, I don't know about those. You flip the teeth?
No, it's almost like a denture, but you put it over teeth,
Oh,
and they're
yeah.
called flippers. They use them a lot in child beauty pageants. Fun facts for
disgusting.
because little kids are missing half their teeth and have little kid
Yes.
teeth. So
Yes. Or have huge gaps,
yeah. So in a effort to, anyway, we won't go down that path, but
Yeah.
to make them look like perfect little dolls, they put flippers on their teeth.
Well, this might be the last good theme to touch upon now that we've covered a lot of the film. This is more of a serious topic, but in the theme of beauty pageants, it reminds me of the show Cuties, where it's a show that might have a good message but goes too far to explain that message, right? The point that they were trying to make in the show Cuties was child exploitation is bad, but they do that by exploiting children on a TV show. So does this film, or David Lynch maybe in general, but we can stick specifically to Wild at Heart, does it go too far to get maybe Lynch's messages across? We already said that it could get lost in translation, so that's a flaw. But it's not a flaw in David Lynch's eyes, but in the common people's eyes it is, in the moral scales. But I will say, or I'm asking, not does it get lost in translation, I'm asking, does it go too far to prove a point? Could it have proved a point without exploiting abuse?
And I also want to point out that this is the scaled down version. So like there was a cut that was like would have been X-rated or now NC-17 rated.
Yeah.
Although it was more related to the violence.
That doesn't surprise me.
Particularly the scene where the shotgun. Won't say any further than that.
It looks fake.
It looks fake, but
Yeah.
it was
it
more.
looked
It was more explicit.
Gotcha.
I guess I don't know how concerned they are about things looking cartoonish. It's more of the idea of what happened, probably, to the rating. Although I've heard the MPA is kind of all over the board. Like you'll send them something that you would think would be super problematic,
like
and
Pokemon
they're
cards
okay.
graded,
and then like
they could be the same card. You get a 9, and then you send it back in, and they get a 10. It's all relative.
Yeah, and obviously like it's not like an official thing. It's just like, the NC-17 rating matters because nobody actually goes to watch those movies, like
except for the movie vault, so you don't have to.
So yeah.
We watch this movie, so
if you want anybody to see them, you have to avoid that rating. If you don't care, then you can do it.
Sorry,
But,
that's what you're saying.
No, it's fine. I was gonna say. I mean, I think we sort of chatted about this offline, so I'll let the Movie Vault listeners in on this. I mean, for me, I did struggle with how far in the sex scenes that it goes.
Yeah.
It's just it was a lot.
Yeah.
it was way more than I was anticipating.
It was a lot.
I was like, I know Lynch, and I know he's not afraid, but it was like way more. Probably, this should maybe have the strongest warning of any Movie Vault movie that we've done.
Yeah.
And we started off with Good Time, which was like a bold.
Yeah.
Start.
The only one I can foresee also getting a warning is when we do Lynch's Fire Walk with Me as well one day.
Yeah.
But I will say, Shaz, it was hilarious when you texted us being like, "This is not my cup of tea."
I was like,
"Can we talk about this?"
I used the word "this is not my jam."
Sorry,
but
not my
yes,
jam.
It was a
potato,
very
potato.
nice way of wording, like, and I
What
felt.
did you guys get me into?
I felt so bad, and maybe we would never have had this conversation if we didn't like spring it on you like that.
Yeah.
But I did feel kind of bad because I was like, I should have prefaced that this movie has content that is probably objectionable.
And
to a
I'm
lot
to be
of
honest,
people.
I was very unaware. I couldn't picture Nicolas Cage in a movie like this before I watched it, to be quite honest. So I was picturing a more, not lighthearted because it's Lynch, but like maybe just weird subplot of love. And maybe there was some sex, but blah, blah, blah. Yeah. There was a lot of abuse and sex. I think the mixture of that was tough.
Yeah, it wasn't just sex; it was also violence and sex combined, and it was just everything.
Yeah.
Like it's
I
pretty.
I would change that.
Yeah.
Because I love Lynch. He's one of my favorite directors. He might be my favorite director. And he's probably one of our favorite directors in the Movie Vault as an entity. But I would definitely change that. I think it's a little bit too far. Sorry, it's just too far.
Yeah.
Not just a little bit. To prove the same point that could have been proved with less,
Yeah.
I'm not saying make it PG. Like, there can be sex scenes. Of course, if I made it, I wouldn't put one in there. But, like, it could have proved it with inferring things. I didn't need to see... those beginning scenes with Nicolas Cage putting his hands on people, like with his backstories. That was gross. And, but like for Lynch, that's the visceral reality of it. And for him, on his moral scales, with his morals are kind of his own, to be honest. Whereas we have different morals that are solidified. He saw that as kind of a necessary way to express what he was trying to express. So at the end of the day, I don't want to use the word values, but it's like a what's your stance, what's your truth, values, baseline, where are you coming from type of thing, to where we both want to get that message out there, but the ends don't justify the means in my case. And I think that's what maybe you're expressing. Maybe
I mean, I may surprise you with. So by the time the movie was done, and I've just kind of sat in it for a few days. I agree. I mean, I still think it's too far. I'm not saying no. Actually, I think it makes sense. No. It's too much. Too much. These are not the movies I generally watch because no one needs these visuals in their mind. But it made an interesting. So one, it made me sad because there are so many people that I know personally, and you just know in the world that this is a relationship. Like, I'm sitting there half the time wondering, these two don't really talk about anything. They don't really
Sure.
have much in common. Is actually the foundation of their relationship just really good sex? Like, is this it? And I was
Yes.
like, wait, I think it may actually be. And I think he's proving that point. So they have these intense scenes, traumatic scenes, running away scenes. And then that's their outlet, right? Like that's their only joy. And there's this one subtle thing that I appreciated. I was like, this is the thing to have focused on instead of the more overt ones. But you'll see like her hand. I don't know if you guys noticed, there'll be that one shot just of her hand sort of just like release.
Yeah.
And it's visual of she's releasing all the anxiety and fear and sadness she has. And that's her outlet. And I was like, that I get, and there's an interesting conversation there
Yeah.
about people turning to their most carnal need as the only thing to give them joy, which is sad and something to talk about, but you don't need all the extra added in.
I agree. And you bring a good point of view with your noticing of subtle, body language movements and things like that, especially with Laura Dern, just like, that's kind of how the story is told, is through those moments, not necessarily through, dialogue or anything. If it's dialogue, all you're hearing is like flirting the entire movie. So
Threats, verbal threats, and
Yeah.
flirting, and
Punching.
not a lot of substance.
And every now and again, Sailor!
yeah, yep. Is that also in Sailor Moon? I haven't seen Sailor Moon.
Not in the way she did, but there is,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Watch it, they're fun.
By the way, this is so random, but whenever anybody yells like that, I just think of Alvin and the Chipmunks. Alvin.
It had that degree of annoying to me when she would yell his name sometimes, yes.
Yeah. What were you saying? Sorry.
I had a thought.
It's tough when I have a thought and then I go somewhere else and then someone asks me again and I'm put on the spot and
Sorry.
it's different. It's just like putting David Lynch.
Well, here was my
Sorry.
thought. It's back.
Okay.
So filming,
I stalled enough
filming
for you.
a visual
Welcome back.
medium. I think that I agree with everything that you said. I think that there will always be directors who are willing to go the places that Lynch goes because film is a visual medium, so you can.
Yeah.
So maybe in the context of like a book, I mean, there's still appropriate and inappropriate ways to do this in our moral guides. Like you could more easily kind of get the same thing out of it and not have to show it visually. But I do think like they definitely like this could have been a good hour and 40-minute movie in my opinion.
Take
There'd
20
be
minutes
20
of the
minutes.
hard sex scenes
Yes.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would have been, I feel like you could make it just as effective.
Yeah.
Making it, dancing around things a little bit more.
But this is what I'll say about David Lynch. Like, I stand by what I said so far, everything. But I love David Lynch because he just gives you the visceral film. Mm-hmm. He just hands you the dead body, and you got to bury it yourself. It's no graveside service with flowers. It's like this is you're digging through the bones and the guts. It's my anatomy lab, and
Yeah.
I have learned to love anatomy, and I've learned to love David Lynch, and I think he's an acquired taste. I'll say that. He's kind of like, for me, it took me a while to get used to coffee. It took me about a year. I had to force myself to drink it for a while to stay awake.
You love it so much.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed.
But
Yeah.
coffee's one of those things. Like, I had the same experience as well. It's like you don't like bitter taste at first, and then you force yourself to do it, and then all of a sudden, and same with beer. That was shorter because
Yeah.
like
And I will not-
I already liked coffee, so
I will not say whether or not I drink. And no, I'm just
but you can guess
but it's like now I'm addicted to it.
to coffee.
To coffee.
To coffee. Clarify, all coffee.
To coffee only. And David Lynch. And the funny thing is, those go hand in hand. Coffee, cigarettes, and David Lynch. I don't smoke cigarettes. I promise you that. Otherwise, I'd be a bad.
But
healthcare
if there
worker.
were anyone who could convince you to do it,
it would be David.
he did die of emphysema. Though,
I was going to
will
say, except the way it ended. So
but
maybe
he lived to
he's a
be
solid-
77, so that's the
I think
average.
78.
That's like average
Yeah.
length.
Yeah.
So
Except the last 10 years were pretty unhealthy. And
yeah, that's a good
crummy.
point. You have to think about your quality of life.
Yeah.
So I would say if it makes you look cool, that is a plus, but the minuses are
This is
much more severe.
This is what I'll say. David Lynch makes coffee sound amazing too. In Twin Peaks, when Cooper goes to the shop or goes to the diner,
And this is like not
diner.
good coffee.
Yeah.
no, it's like crappy
this is
coffee.
before
But he'll go,
like
and he'll be like, "Oh, best part of my morning." Then the best line he says is Cooper, and I'll never forget this. He goes, "Oh," and then and Donna comes up. She's like, "You want some coffee?" He's like, "Yes, black is the night on a midsummer's night." And I was like, "That is the best line ever." And like, it makes coffee. He like godifies
Yeah.
coffee.
And pie. He
Yeah,
loves
and pie. Yes. Only from Donna's place. I forget what.
Which I've heard the Real Diner. This is another blank check snippet. The Real Diner in Twin Peaks. The pie is terrible in the town.
Oh.
They had someone on the podcast whose family intentionally moved to the town, or there's like 3 towns where Twin Peaks was filmed. They intentionally moved there after Twin Peaks to be like, we want to live there.
It's a weird life choice.
I know. It was like it was crazy. It blew my mind that
into the Black Lodge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, nothing about that movie would make me want to live there.
And they were like, yeah, the pie's terrible.
show.
I would be so
like, that's-
freaked out if I stayed in the place where the hotel. What's the name? The lot. What?
Oh.
I forget. If I stayed in that,
Which
lodge,
is a real, a real place.
If I stayed, I'd be
No.
so freaked out that giant would just teleport into my room and start talking to me. I would freak out.
Nope. Hard pass.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you guys were mentioning Twin Peak references in this.
Yes.
That apparently I may have missed.
Aubrey was one of the characters. She got hit by the car, or she was in the car accident.
Oh, I did recognize her, which was an
Audrey.
interesting scene in itself. We can come back to it.
So
in a
it
second.
was-
Bobby.
It
She was
was-
yelling Bobby.
No.
Yeah.
So
She
Mr.
yelled Robert
Reindeer
as well.
was in that scene. I just checked.
Yes.
So it's not obvious.
Yeah.
But he died in the scene, I believe.
Oh.
I think, or he was somehow related to the car wreck scene. So
Interesting.
Well, there were 2 dead guys
yeah.
and then her.
So I think he was one of them, and so presumably she was somehow roped in with Mr. Reindeer's scheme, which would kind of fit.
So isn't that crazy? So she goes, "Where's my Bobby pin?" And then she says, "Robert." As she was yelling, like in the show, she yelled Bobby so much.
Wow, I missed that.
And then the what's the guy that works in the log place?
Oh, you're right.
He
The
with
brother.
the mustache. The brother, and then he was with the redhead girl. I'm not remembering any. Gene. Was it Gene?
Yes, you know the guy who's like the little brother of Ben. That's his name, Ben Horn.
Yeah.
Ben Horn. His
No,
name.
not him.
He was in it.
He was in it too?
Yeah.
What is he?
He was like so briefly in it, you would
Okay.
hardly notice.
Oh, he's in it.
Jerry. His name's Jerry, right?
Oh, I didn't see that.
And
little
that.
sprinkles.
So you're thinking of something else.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Pete Martell. Pete, this guy, played by Jack Nance. He's
Jack Nance. Jack Nance he was the character in Eraserhead too.
And then
he's in a lot of Lynch
and
stuff.
then also they mention One-Eyed Jacks. They mention One-Eyed Jacks in a scene.
That I missed.
Yeah, where there's a gang outside and he's like, "Yeah, One-Eyed Jacks is the best player," or something like that. And I couldn't get past any of those references. So.
And then of course Cheryl Lee at the end as the wizard.
Yes.
Or whatever she
Glinda,
is.
Laura
the
Palmer.
Good Witch.
The Good
Laura
Witch.
Palmer right at the end of it.
Fascinating.
So lots of Twin Peaks references. Of course, that makes sense. This came out between seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's still weird to me that like this was like the move in between Twin Peaks and 1. It fits with Lynch, but it's like, and it's funny again. Like I said, this is definitely not the most remembered of Lynch's movies, and maybe like I feel like this is not many people's favorite Lynch movie, which
No,
you
it's
can
not
kind of
even
see
mine,
why. But it was the one that won Palme d'Or again. So.
Fascinating.
I will say one of my favorite things of that Twin Peaks actor is Ray Wise, who plays Laura Palmer's dad. That he was in RoboCop when we reviewed that. I just loved that Laura Palmer's dad was in RoboCop.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
I think I just need to make that statement right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the one thing I had wished I had done was a little bit of research into what I was watching instead of you guys just saying, "Hey, let's watch this," and I invited a friend over to hang out and watch it with me. Go, "Hey, I'm gonna watch this movie. I'm gonna be talking to some friends about it later if you want to watch it with me." I was like, "It's a David Lynch movie, so it'll probably be a little weird." I didn't appreciate what I was really getting into. That's on me. And it's not her type of movie at all. But she figured, okay, that's fine. We'll just hang out. And it was uncomfortable sitting there with my friend. She was like, "What is happening?" And she not because she hated the movie so much, but she kept trying to make it work. Mm-hmm. And then it was getting later anyway. She goes, "I think I'm going to go." And I said, "Do you want me to?"
I'm sorry if we ruined a friendship for you.
No, it was honestly. I had to I keep reminding her. If I ever invite you for a movie again, these are not the movies I normally watch.
Sure, we'll do one that I've seen. I previewed.
Yes,
yeah.
I will preview them going forward. But it was kind of hilarious.
We are planting
to
seeds in
watch
your
this
friend.
with her. What, to destroy the friendship or
No, we
to
are
make her
planting
a
seeds in your
Lynchian?
friend. This is what the movie vault does. This is what we try to do. We try to open up new experiences of film.
Yeah, we did this with
other
our
people.
friends with Inland Empire.
And Chris,
I bought the
Chris left an hour into the movie.
I bought the Criterion of Inland Empire, which definitely, if you watch it maybe by yourself or with someone who you know, maybe not this friend, somebody who you know would like really appreciate Lynch stuff, because it is the most Lynch movie ever. Like it's stories within stories. You know, people who are like related, but they lived in different times. It's like so, you know, surreal and over the top and crazy. But I think like it was also had very much, you know, some uncomfortable scenes and different things. And we just forced these friends who were like, it was basically going 0 to 100. Like, it's like never seen anything Lynch. And now we're showing you like this weird art house, 3 hours. It's 3 hours.
Oh,
it's like a, you know, marathon of a movie. And they probably will. I don't know whether it worked for them. Like, I don't know that turned them off from ever watching.
Our
like,
sweet
art
friend
house
David, he used to be on the podcast a lot, and he right after the film was like trying to like explain it and like try to in his own head, like, okay, so this makes sense. This connects this, and we're like, David, just give up. Just give up. This is a 3-hour movie. There are loose connections everywhere, and you can form your own theories. And we did that in our episode. So listen to, I think, episode 68 or something like that.
No, it's in like the 90s.
Sure, 90 something. And that's kind of what you have to do. Or you're Chris Lee and you go and walk out of this movie an hour in, and that's fine. Or you're, you know, one of our friends who stayed just because you support us as friends. And, you know,
there it is.
That's great that we have friends like that.
Honestly, I was bummed she left. There was 25 minutes left in the movie when she left. I went, oh no! It was like most of the terrible stuff was done by then, and you just missed the payoff. Which, I mean, I watched the end. I was like, that payoff was whatever. Yeah. So it's fine. But I was disappointed at that point. You know, just watch the last 30 minutes. It's fine. Yeah. But I think I'm gonna we're gonna watch like Finding Nemo or something. Next
That's a great movie. I love Finding Nemo.
That's Ben's favorite Pixar.
Inspirational.
I love. Yeah, Finding Nemo's great.
Yeah,
I think that's great to have range in your movie watching too.
Yeah,
and I agree. This is not like if you were only watching movies like this all the time. I don't know. It's good to watch some, you know, like uplifting.
It is so funny that we came from Terrence Malick, like a very weighty director, straight to. Well, we had an awesome Joe versus the Volcano. Little
it's
side
like a palate
quest.
cleanse.
Yes, and then we go straight into David Lynch, which is much darker than Terrence Malick, less hefty when it comes to having to think about the film.
I wouldn't necessarily say darker. It's just like content wise, he's just more visceral. Like
visceral,
because Malick like Thin Red Line, like there's darkness.
Yeah,
but he deals with it in a different way. Maybe in a way that sometimes feels a little bit more mature. But maybe, but Lynch, the perspective he brings is just like so unique. You have to admit he was influential. Now he probably spawned like tons of movies and TV shows that are like horrible because people didn't they're trying to like copy him, but they didn't really understand the root of his process or how he got to like the surrealism.
There's a
so now
definite art to it.
They're just like taking the surrealism, and it's just like that always happens though when somebody does something that's, I mean, when Pulp Fiction came out, everyone had to sit through like 100,000 ripoffs of Pulp Fiction, and there might have been a few good ones, but there was like tons of them that are just like, you know, they just got some parts of it, but not enough to like actually do anything cool with it.
Yep.
It's like surrealist painters, right? I mean, you think about, you know, someone like a Dali, where his work is amazing, and I love his work, but then there's so many other people who are labeled surrealist, and I look at it and I go, this is a mess. Yeah. That's where the artistry comes out and the real talent shines through. Where there's, even in the mess, there's something that's compelling. Yeah.
That's great. I love that Salvador Dali painting with the elephants with the long legs. I don't know what it's called. And they're in the desert, and it's yellow and orange, and that's the most beautiful painting. I should get that for my office because I'm thinking about what things I should hang in my office. So maybe I'll do that, and then a poster of David Lynch with coffee and cigarettes.
Sounds fantastic.
With emphysema medication. So these are all great visceral thoughts. If you have any more questions about David Lynch, search him up. Search the name David Lynch. You'll see all of his movies. Watch every film that he has. Build your way up to Inland Empire, and then talk to us.
What's the best starting point for David Lynch?
I would say Eraserhead.
His
first film.
It's also not very long, so the time commitment is not.
Yeah,
If it is a slower paced movie.
Don't
but
do Twin Peaks. I don't think Twin Peaks represents him perfectly.
Elephant Man is his most critically acclaimed movie, and like at the time.
Yeah.
Like that came out, it was like Oscar bait, and it's his like very standard movie.
Yeah.
So it's not a great entry point. Probably, I actually have not watched it.
It's great.
Because it's not
It's
like
not dark. It's just kind of lighthearted at the end. And here's the thing: A Straight Story is a Disney film that Lynch directed. Did you know that?
No.
He directed a Disney film, and
it's rated G.
it is extremely wholesome. Extremely wholesome. Just a
This was right after he made Lost Highway. He was
wonderful.
like,
Your friend might like this story. It's
He
about
needed a palate cleanse if we think about it, probably.
or money. And
Yep.
and it's about a farmer who realizes his brother is sick, so he travels across the land on a tractor with a trailer to go see his brother before his brother passes.
What's it called?
A Straight Story.
Straight Story. Okay.
And that's the whole movie, and it's a beautiful. It's really
Just a
funny because it's an
feel-good
old
story.
man, you know. So there's a lot of old man stuff in there, and
Old man on a tractor. I'll take it.
yes,
Okay.
it's so wonderful.
I
It's
need a
like
palate cleanse
so-
after this movie.
Yeah, yes, you need therapy after this one. So Shaz, what kind of movies have you watched recently?
Ooh, come back to me. I actually thought
Great.
about this
I
earlier.
will go. I have seen. I rewatched the movie Reservoir Dogs with Micah.
what do you think?
He loved it. He told me I really love this movie, except there was the scene where
Yeah,
they
that
cut off
one's
the
tough.
ear.
That was tough.
And listen, that's fair. Nobody has to like that, and they can still be good at watching movies without liking that.
Yeah,
I watched
agree.
Point Break 2 nights ago with my friend Fonseca,
Congrats.
and
I love Point Break.
it was really good. Not at all what I was expecting. There's a lot more surfing in the movie than I expected. But I'll tell you, Patrick Swayze is not only an attractive, amazing man, but a great actor and someone who you can hate if he wants you to hate him in a film. And just very charismatic. And then also, those are the only 2 films I've seen. But Keanu Reeves, I could tell like his acting wasn't amazing in this, but I loved him in this film. I loved him in this film. Almost more than I loved him in The Matrix, to be quite honest. Like, I really loved that it was him in this film.
I am an FBI agent.
Okay, listen. I appreciate it.
No, it's good. I love
I
Point Break.
appreciate it.
That's a great movie.
It's kind of like, Keanu Reeves and Nicolas Cage are kind of,
That's
kind of have
that's
the
a
same
great
vibe
point.
going on, if
They're-
that makes sense.
Oh,
They're
that's
cut
so
from the same-
real.
Yeah.
They're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah. What about you?
I do have a lingering question though. If you guys have like, what's your favorite Nick Cage movie? But we can
Honestly,
end
don't-
if you want to.
no, let's do it.
I honestly don't think I've watched enough. Like, I know a lot about Nick Cage's movies, but I've been meaning to watch Leaving Las Vegas, especially for like a long time, and I just have never gotten to it. So,
I mean, I can, without overthinking, the one that has stuck with me the most, and it's just one of my oddly favorite movies, not for the content, just it's so fun to watch. Gone in 60 Seconds.
Haven't seen.
So I like movies that involve, I like heist movies. There's something
Yeah.
about heist movies. It's a genre I always enjoy. I also love cars. I just think they're art on wheels. And I mean, it's all the things.
Art
It's
on
heist.
wheels.
It's beautiful cars.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's him and Angelina Jolie and this kind of amazing cast. But yeah, Gone in 60 Seconds.
Interesting. So I hear Con Air is really good. I haven't seen it.
Ooh,
I've
yep.
seen Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. It's great, but it's not like an amazing movie level. I like National Treasure, even though we didn't do it justice here in the movie vault. It's a good movie. I liked both Ghost Riders. These are on the lower end.
I did
of what
not
I
like
think.
Ghost Rider. I
Really?
just want to say that. I hated Ghost Rider.
Oh, interesting. I'm
Yeah.
a big superhero guy.
I was
so
not
I
a
like,
big Ghost Rider fan at all.
I think it's just
But it
fun.
wasn't because of Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
So maybe I just had the wrong,
It's just a dumb movie.
Yeah, I just didn't like the movie.
So on my watch list is Moonstruck with Cher. Have you seen it?
No.
Okay.
But I have an exact answer for my favorite one now. I forgot I watched this.
That's a good movie, and he's actually interesting in that movie. I do like him there.
So I'm gonna have to go with so far this film.
My favorite
Wow.
over this film, Adaptation.
Oh wait, never mind. You're right.
I love Adaptation. He plays 2 brothers in that movie, and it's a Spike Jonze movie. So, and I think Charlie Kaufman.
His screenplay was Charlie Kaufman.
Yeah. So again, I said this. How does he keep coming up? Charlie Kaufman got to pair him with a director because he can't on his own. He's a little wild. He's surreal like David Lynch, but in
Yeah.
a sad way. But adaptation was incredible. It's like a story about a writer, and then the book becomes the movie. It's really weird, but it's amazing. He's great, perfect person to cast in it, in my opinion.
What about you, Shaz?
Movies that I've seen recently,
Or
First favorite Nicolas Cage movie
ever?
I think it's.
You said Gone in 60
Yeah, I think it's
Seconds.
Gone in
for
60
sure.
Seconds.
I'm sorry, I didn't think you were certain. My bad.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it's fine. I mean, that's my knee jerk one, but
Whatever the knee jerk is. For
yeah,
me
the knee
is
jerk.
I think
that's
at
the
knee-jerk,
one that just
you
sort
gotta
of
go with
stays
that.
with me. But I want it to be a better answer.
No.
If I think of anything
I don't think
before you
there's
guys publish this, you can do a little voiceover and go, Shaz has decided her actual favorite movie is, and then fill in the blank.
We'll let all the interns do it that way. That way, when we're
Gives them something to
multi-billion-dollar
do.
industry.
Yeah, that's what we need to do. Like, put misleading advertisements online and be like, intern for this podcast conglomerate, your new opportunity. And it's like getting people to do free work for us, basically.
That would be nice.
I think that's what we should do.
I'll help you with that.
So, what movies have you seen lately?
Okay, so I recently went back and rewatched The Usual Suspects because
Oh.
it's such a classic, and I realized it had been forever since I had watched it. And I think talking to you guys, I was missing some of the just classic, old, great, well done movies that I
Yeah.
know I love in my head. But I was like, oh, it's been a minute. It doesn't get old. I mean, it's been so long since I've seen it, and I've seen it a bunch of times, but yeah, there's something about the acting, and it gave me a little bit of nostalgia, feeling like I don't see movies like that
Yeah.
much anymore.
Yeah.
With so many layers, so much build up, interesting characters, a payoff that feels like a payoff. Like,
Yeah.
wow, you really
Yeah.
brought me on a journey. So yeah, I rewatched The Usual Suspects recently. I liked that. I like old classic movies, and so there's a whole world of those. I do this with books as well. I bounce back and forth between newer books and older books. And I went and watched one I've never seen that is a classic. I watched An Affair to Remember.
Do you know that? Okay.
It's touched on in other movies.
It's Cary Grant.
One of the most famous, more current movies that references it is Sleepless in Seattle.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, there's we'll meet at the top of the Empire State Building.
Oh, yeah.
That is a nod to, and I think even at one point an overt reference to An Affair to Remember. Anyway, I watched it. It was lovely. I mean, a lot of the movie is based on this cruise ship and these two interacting on it, and I don't know, old world, but also watching something set so long ago with things that felt very relevant of,
Yeah.
They're with other people, but they can't deny their attraction. Other people watching them on the ship, and then sometimes very cartoony, like they're on a dance floor talking, and then everyone on the dance floor is just looking at them. So, clearly they're being watched because people know that they may be having an affair. Anyway, it was a very sweet movie. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I love, as a kind of New Yorker, I just also love anything that lets me see old New York.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was lovely. And then I think there was another one, and I'm drawing a blank on what it was. Oh, Baby Driver.
Oh, I love that
yeah.
one. Yeah.
Episode 6 of the Movie Vault. I
Really?
believe.
We reviewed that?
Really?
Yeah, really early days.
That
remember
movie is...
We were, or episode 5. We were in your old apartment in the spare room while other people were still talking and hanging out in the other room. We had this great social scene for the start of the Movie Vault. The podcast itself was probably not as good, but people would come over and watch the movie and then hang out.
So it was
and
a
we would
whole
record.
event.
Yeah, it was like an
Ooh,
event.
bring that
was really hard to sustain, but
Okay. Maybe once in a while.
Yeah,
You'll do
Baby Driver's
movie
great.
vault nights. But Baby
That'd be
Driver,
nice.
it just has that art house vibe where the colors, the scene, just visually, it's constantly beautiful. And
Music.
then a fantastic soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then back to the cars. So
Yeah.
there you
Yeah.
go.
Art on wheels.
Art on wheels.
Yeah.
I love a good car.
Yeah, that's great. That's not Ansel Elgort. That's the other one.
is it Ansel Elgort?
No, it's the
No.
other one.
The other guy.
Edgar-
Oh, well, Edgar Wright is the director.
Oh, what am I thinking of? Hold
I
on.
thought it was Ansel Elgort who stars in it.
Oh, sorry. This is gonna really bother me. Yeah, it's Ansel Elgort. Okay. Yeah, he plays Baby. Okay. Well, those are some great ones. Kevin Spacey's in this. Wow.
It actually has, if you look at the cast, it's There's a
Jamie Foxx.
ton of famous people.
I was
in it.
thinking like this was before all
John
the Kevin
Hamm,
Spacey
I think, is
stuff
in it
came
as
out.
well, right?
John Hamm. Yeah.
Yeah, John
I think
Hamm.
they're doing a Baby Driver too.
Are they?
I believe so. I could be
Edgar.
wrong, but I don't know if Edgar is doing it.
Oh, he's not.
These
We'll see how it
long
goes.
delay sequels are always very
Yeah.
odd and interesting to me.
Yep. They're doing a lot of these sequels these days, and everywhere you look. So
I'm very excited about it was not as many movies. Well, it's actually a decent amount.
Okay.
So I watched Flow, which is it was won Oscar for Best Animated Feature. It is a movie about a cat, and there's no dialogue. It's just this cat's journey.
Did
And
you
it's
get
great.
into this because of Millie?
It didn't hurt that we have Millie now.
Oh,
But really beautiful animation, and it's very engaging despite the lack of dialogue. I thought it's an amazing movie. Latvian, I believe. So, but it doesn't matter because there's no dialogue. So perfect. And it beat out Pixar and all the big guns. So that's cool. It was made all on what's that one program?
iPhone.
No.
I'm just joking. CapCut.
Yeah, it was made all on CapCut.
It was an Instagram reel.
iMovie.
Yeah. It was, I forget what the program's called, but I was like surprised when I heard it was all made on that. And then I watched 2 Hitchcock movies, The Wrong Man and Strangers on a Train. Strangers on a Train was really, because I've watched a lot of the like really well-known Hitchcock movies, so now I'm starting to get in the ones that are like still well-known but not quite as well-known
Have
as
we
like the
reviewed
heavy
Vertigo
hitters.
yet?
I don't think we have.
We need to.
We need to do a Hitchcock.
Yeah.
We have lots of things that we need to do.
Yeah.
But there's this guy named
love that.
Robert Walker who stars in the movie as it's a murder mystery, and his performance particularly I thought was really, really good. And it's another one of those Hitchcock like murder mystery things. It's great. The Wrong Man was also good. It's actually based on a true story of a guy who's wrongfully accused of a crime. So that was pretty cool. I watched Austin Powers International Man of Mystery. First time watching Austin Powers anything.
What?
It was entertaining. It was definitely not the most highbrow thing. I'm not always like a big lowbrow comedy, but it's a good, picture of the era. And it's funny watching the 90s try to pull off the 60s, I think they were.
I was going to say,
in
which
reference
era? The
to.
60s or the
Yeah.
90s?
So now it's like looking back, it's like, oh, here's the 90s version of what the 60s was like type of thing. Lots of SNL people on it, if you care about that.
I don't.
Then I watched another amazing movie from the 1970s, and this is Mikey and Nicky. Stars John Cassavetes and Peter Falk, and it's directed by Elaine May. So John Cassavetes, if you've ever watched any of his movies, they're very like, I've watched A Woman Under the Influence, and they're very like you're just thrown into these people's lives, and they're like arguing, and there's a lot of just like following what's going on. It's like a movie. It's kind of a mob movie, but it's really just about the two characters and their friendship and how it falls apart. I thought
that's gonna be us, Ben.
Yeah. It's gonna be Ben
Tomorrow.
Ben and Zach.
I'll bring my camera.
The rise and fall of the movie vault.
If you've never watched like anything from this era of 70s movies, it probably would be really odd to you, but I thought it was really good. Then Emma and I watched Nerve together, which was a big deal because we
Emma Roberts. By the way, she's the only celebrity I will admit that I had a celebrity crush on when I was little.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Nerve was a movie that Emma and I both agreed to watch and wanted to watch, which is rare. Both of us thought it was pretty mediocre, which is funny. We got through the whole thing.
It's the one with the app and the dares.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of gimmicky and like the plot.
I was going to say, I don't know it.
The plot falls apart in the end, and the acting is like kind of bad. Yeah. I know you like Emma Roberts, but like I didn't think
I liked her in Scream Queens.
I
loved the show Scream Queens.
Yeah,
because she was like a sassy,
and
word
the
that I
plot
won't
of the
use.
movie just gets like insane, but like not in a way that you like love. Like it's supposed to be a grounded movie, but it feels very ungrounded, and it's just like I like when movies are like over the top, but it just feels like that's not what they were going for, and it just, but it was interesting. And then
so it was accidentally over the top.
Yeah, it was accidentally over the top.
That's sad.
So I thought
it's like you're trying too hard.
Yeah.
And then finally I rewatched Good Will Hunting, which made me cry. So
it's not your fault. It's not your fault.
I was like, this movie should not be as powerful as it. Like you get the feeling it's two like bros who wrote a movie and like this is gonna be great, but it's like a good movie. It's such a good movie.
Those bros must have been bros.
Yeah, and Robin Williams, oh man,
He's so good.
he's so good.
That scene when he talks about towards the end when he talks about it's the flaws that he remembers and that's the good stuff, right? When he opens it with
Right.
like my wife used to fart in her sleep.
Yeah,
That whole scene right there is one of the most beautiful, real, I don't know, conversations, if you will, speeches on what real love and a relationship can look like. I love that.
I think that's why the movie works so well. I think the movie is cool and all the stuff with the Boston and them being friends and Ben Affleck being like, I want you to not be here. Like
That's one of my favorite lines
Best
from
day
the
of
movie.
my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like all great, but like what ties it together is the relationship between Sean, Robin Williams' character, and his wife that you never even see.
Yeah.
But just his description of it
Yeah.
is like super powerful, like you're saying. And it's like showing this kid like this is what you can have if you don't if you open yourself up to the right people, because you've been through stuff because you've been taken advantage of by again, like there's a lot of stuff about abuse in this movie too, maybe handled in a better way.
Yeah.
But
Actually,
again,
it's interesting. It like the two of them, I guess it's the same because of the abuse, and this happens often. Then you have some vision of, okay, but then if it's perfect, then the abuse doesn't happen. So then you have all these walls and boundaries because only perfect is allowed. And yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing that Robin Williams pushes him to do of don't look for perfect, be okay with the flaws and just let things happen because the perfect is in the imperfect, right?
Robin Williams is really good at that because another movie that comes to mind is Dead Poets Society, where he's kind of like encouraging these kids to kind of live into who they, not to the image that their parents have them living into, but kind of like the unique artistic. Honestly, those kids are like artists, and they're being forced to do like math and science like to a strict level. And of course, that movie ends very tragically, but Robin's really good at that.
Similar with What Dreams May Come. That's another great one.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I know about it.
and I noticed too, like the film style, like for it being like this movie about tough guys in Boston, all the music is Elliott Smith, which is like really interesting. Obviously, he had his own actually tragic, like end to his life, honestly, which is kind of sad to think about now in light of Robin Williams as well. But it also like is very. There's a lot of like cityscapes and these like very artistic. But Gus Van Sant directed it, and he's like kind of an art house guy, so it makes sense how it all came together. But now thinking of like what Matt Damon and Ben Affleck have done since, it's like hard to picture them making this like kind of indie movie that like became super successful, and then like now Ben Affleck's Batman and Matt Damon's like an action
Jason
star.
Bourne.
Yeah, it's like it's like why can't they do more of this? But I've actually heard interviews of Matt Damon saying like you could make movies like Good Will Hunting back in the day because of DVD, like because the resale value of these movies, like people would go rent them and watch them, and now like it doesn't work on streaming, or they haven't figured out how to make it work, and we get Russo brothers, making Electric State instead.
Yikes.
So
Hey, we'll see about Secret Wars Doomsday.
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Well, I probably made you guys talk too much about
Well,
the
here's the
movies
thing.
that I watched.
Shaz is always a proponent of do an hour-long episode, but then she said, "Who's your favorite Nicolas Cage?" What's your
I'm
favorite
so
Nicolas
sorry.
Cage
It took
movie?
us on so many angles. Yeah.
Oh,
That
but it
means
was
it's
so
good
fun.
convo. That's
it was
good.
so fun.
No. Well, with that, go support us on the Last Resort Network on YouTube. Make sure
Get
to
your
put that dot in
insurance.
there.
Get your insurance from Headland Angling Agency.
Yes. Oh, real quick. Sorry, Shaz. It's going to be like a 3-hour episode. My wife and I just got Hedman Anglin Agency insurance. It was a great process, very easy. We got to call him personally to Jonathan Anglin and talk with him about different deals and stuff like that. We got a great deal. We got auto insurance. We got renter's insurance. We're thinking about
Well
life
done.
insurance right now. I had to get special things for being in the medical field as well. So he knew all about it. He taught me all about it. I could have, if I caused an accident, I could have lost wages for the rest of my life. I didn't know about this. So the law is scary. You know this, Shaz. And having good insurance. So I'll give more. Maybe we'll do an outside
And
the vault.
throw in
just
some
about,
umbrella for good measure, umbrella insurance. Yeah.
Possibly. I got to look at the wallet. But again, it's all cheap, so even a penny in the wallet can pay for this, which is great. So maybe I'll talk a little bit more about my experience with Hedman Anglin Agency another time, but for now, call them at 614-486-7300. Wait, 7300.
614-486-7300.
Okay.
Well, between the two of us, you got it.
Yeah.
We can also look them up on Google.
Yes.
And HedmanAnglinAgency.com, I believe.
Yes. Wonderful people over there. So with that, that's the end of the Movie Vault episode for today. We will be moving on with another David Lynch episode. I believe we'll have about 8 films in this arc. No, 7 in this arc. We'll leave one David Lynch film for another time, and we'll have a break in the middle of this arc for a fun film.
We have some more cool guests that we're thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
Shaz has been probably the coolest guest that we've ever had, so it's
Hey.
kind of right at the top.
Probably.
Write in, folks. Have me come back.
Yes.
No more David Lynch movies, though.
Hopefully we're done by the time
I will let you
come
proceed on this journey without me.
back. Yes, we'll have, hopefully, we have 2 guests in mind for now, and we'll see. So we don't make any more promises, because we used to say we're doing this next.
Yeah, we used to make promises, and then we would switch things up, and we'd be like, what was the point of even saying what we were going to do?
So we'll see. But with that, let's close the vault. Individuality.